humidity outside?
The current humidity in Kenosha is 84%.
Power on. Steady. Medium volume. Low volume. Whispers of power. The second. The Dark Lord revisited. Power on.
All right. So, just got this Darth Revan saber off of AliExpress. I actually ordered from the wrong store, so I suspected that it may not even arrive. But lo and behold, it arrived. I'm noticing the button on this changes color based on, seems like it's based on what the saber color is. Now, I updated this saber to have a pixel blade in there, but it's still just white on there. And I ordered, where's the chip? Where's the chip? Where's the chip? There it is. this switch assembly, which claims it's 4 pixels. So I wonder if this has an RGB LED. It certainly has, well, it looks like it has more wires than the core one. They sure are bright sabers, Joe. So there's a couple things here. I'm going to tear this down. I want to see what's inside it. And I'm going to look into what this does and how this could be better than the switch that's already in here. But one thing at a time. Let's see what's inside this. Alright, pretty standard Xenoblade type core. For comparison, pop off end of this one. Reset the zoom in here. Right, yeah, I mean it's the that one style of battery. The two, no SD card in this. That makes sense. This is just a standard RGB one. So this is probably a version 3 core. That's what they have. Oh no, it says right there, version 4.2. So I'm going to want to open this up and see what kind of speakers it is. Because I know this Saber, which came with a 4.5, has a much better speaker than the version 3 core did. And now I'm curious. Now that I know that the version 3 core had this screw here, like this screw. Well, you see that this does not have that screw. Also, this board's a little longer, but a version 4 board's, I mean, it's nice. Can't complain. Just gotta see what's going on. It's interesting that this one might have is RGB, but it might have a color changing button. This one does not. I'm noticing here on the side, looks like more wires soldered in to the right side of the board than are soldered into this side of the board. So maybe this has one of these switches. I'm going to have to find out. This core, this was an RGB core, and in an earlier stream I swapped this out for a pixel core, but I did not change the button out. And just due to how everything went, I actually ended up swapping this board for the one that came with the upgrade kit, because the upgrade kit was an older version 3 board with a far inferior speaker, and I found that I could just resolder the connectors for the special wiring for the crystal onto the old board and just reconfigure it on the SD card, and it's been working great since then. But maybe, ever since I saw that there's a pixel specific switch, I thought maybe there was something that could be changed out here. I'm going to find out, and I'm going to double check that I am recording from the right microphone. Where's the microphone settings? Well, the audio levels look all right. Right. People check how the audio sounds. All right, so we've got some kind of version 4 board, but the overall core looks like a version 3. So let's just get this sucker out of here. Really hate all the techniques for getting there we go. Alright, great. Let's see what else onto us. Looks like the emitter section unscrews rather noisily. Alright, looking down in there, it looks like there's the light emitter. I turn it on, but I'm not gonna. Sorry, I took the battery out. So this is probably a solid piece on the back, usually 2 screws. This screw is for holding the button in place via tension, and this is for actually attaching the core to the saber. So I'm going to go ahead and detach the core. There we go. And then we'll loosen up the connector for the switches. Might have to get this all the way up. Whew. It's a long one. Alright, she's loose. Just got to push the switch back in a little bit. She comes right out. Look at that. Easy squeezy. So the question now is, do I want to stay with this core? Answer is no, but I have an extra pixel core just laying around. Looks like it'll go further down than the other one does. So I think I want to swap them, but at the same time I really want to know what's going on inside these guys. So you can see that this spare one I have, it's got the same style screws here on the bottom, these two. Like both of this one says 4.5, this says 4.2, much like this one says 4.2, 2024 08 16, 2024 08 16. So we're actually looking at the same circuit board here for the standalone core that I purchased on AliExpress and the one that came with the RGB saber, which is really interesting, I think. But I want to know what kind of speaker assembly is inside here. So there's two kinds of speaker assemblies. There's ones that are a big one and a small one. I don't remember why I still have this. I thought I sent this back. Oh well. So yeah, pixel blades, they use these pogo pins on the tip. Focus there, little springy boys. That's what's inside here, some springy boys. This one's core is different than this. This one has the pins attached right to the top, but this one has wires that have to go up here, light up the kyber crystal, and then the wires go around and then communicate with the hilt up here. And I also have this lovely thing that I ordered from some guy in Sweden that converts a pixel saber back to a RGB. Though not RGB in that each of these LEDs is RGB. Each one of these is in singularly red, green, and blue, which makes it look very different when it's white inside of the saber. You can actually see the individual LED colors forming a pattern until it forms into a more white color, which is different. But, you know, it does the trick. All I wanted is something so that I could use a standard non-pixel blade when the idea struck me. Anyway, let's see what's inside this guy. Have you got any, buddy? There we go. This is a note. These batteries that they ship with them are only rated, well, this one's rated for 3 amps, which is fine for a simple one light RGB saber, but the pixel sabers, they tend to draw a little more power. So I've actually started using 15 ampere ones. All right, got the lid off. Oh, well, how about that? So this is a version 4 board, and this looks to me like the improved speaker. That's actually really cool. I wish I had the old RGB one. Oh, I sent it back to the guy because it wasn't of any use to me once I swapped the cores out. But interesting, very interesting. This one has a plug at the top leading to this emitter. Let's pop this it's making everything go through the switch on this one. This one didn't quite do that. This one had things broken out to the redirect board underneath here. So this one's wiring is even more complicated then. So this has 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8 wires coming out the bottom. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. Also 8 wires on this one. So the question then is, what goes up? Oh, you know what I think it is? I think the board, it's all going through the board on this one, but I think this board is intended to be redirected to around for the to the emitter, because this is going board, switch, emitter. And this is especially interesting because some of these switches, they'll have the power go through them because they're a switch, but this is purely acting as basically a software switch. It just communicates with the board, and the board directly attaches there. On this one, looks like that's the same case there. I gotta learn a lot about the wiring of this because I'm gonna swap out my original one with a Profi board once I fully understand the electricals of it enough, and that'll make this super programmable. But yeah, I mean, it was labeled as a V3 core, but this is clearly a V4 core. It's not quite the same kind of V4 core like this one, or the one that's in the Pixel Saber upgrade, just with the different screws, but it's still a V4 board, which is actually really cool. I wonder, even though the listings all say V3 boards all over the place, I wonder if just there aren't many V3 boards left out there. Alright, so we got an idea what's in here. I'm going to leave this open because I will be able to pick it apart and reference it. And I would much rather upgrade this core to a nice Pixel Saber. I'm going to have to redo the SD card stuff on this, but that's all going to be okay. So let's go ahead and put that in there. We should be able to just get that in there. The blade's going to have to go down into the hilt a little more than it has. Well, you can see here with these lined up, the blade would come down to here. But then on this, the blade's going to have to come down to here. Now, something to note here, this has little clips here on the side of this. Because actually, the Xeno guys, they sell a clip-on version of this to convert your pixel back to a monocolor saber. How well that works or not, I'm going to find out. I have one on order, but it has not arrived yet. So let's go ahead and just pop that sucker in there. Start screwing her down. In there. There we go. All right, lines up good. Use the same button tensioner. Only one end has the hex head on it, the torque head. So I've got to put the right end out. Alright, just screw that in and watch the button. Because we don't want to crush it. In the back, it's fairly well protected, but still. Anything you can crushionate with enough pressure. Alright, yeah, that's in there. Looks positioned right. Now I need a battery. And technically, I also need an SD card. And this one is not okay. But it'll probably be okay enough to power it on and test it. I brought down some Pixel Blade core. Yeah, looks like that goes down in there, right? Right. And I have not gotten around to installing. Oh, right. Sneaky part. And this part's the one that's got these screws in them. It would have been nice if they gave you some gold colored screws for the proper accent, but what are you going to do? Alright, in there. Oh, one of these too tight. Bring it in. There we go. Alright, we'll just tighten this a bit. So I'm still on the fence about the process of tightening these, because I read somewhere, and it made sense to me then, that if you only tighten one side, the other side gets friction applied by the entire curve of the other side. Whereas if you apply both of the screws in, then the tension is only at those 2 points. But that's the way that the guy who sold us these said we should do it. So, feels like it's in there all right. All right. I need a proper battery. So the Pixel Saber can consume a lot more than 3 amps. So need a battery. In this case, this is a 10 amp battery. The one that the Saber originally came with is 3 amp. Now you're probably not going to consume full power unless you have all 3 RGB colors active at the same time. So like when you're white is when you're going to be putting out the most, well, consuming the most power. So since we're probably not going to start like that, it won't take that much, but I don't like taking a risk like that with batteries. Don't have to put the bottom on, but it's nicer for having everything together. Alright, so she's all in there. Let's see if we can maybe pop out a little bit on the... I think I have to use these smaller ones than these ones, but we won't worry about that now. Let's see if we get a power on.
Power on.
Alright. Boop. See if she turns on properly. Oh, yeah, look at that. Let's switch the blade up.
New horizon.
That's the Ray blade. Oh, but I did the thing for turning it off.
The chosen.
So interesting on this one, it also has the button matching the blade color. I wonder if that's independently programmed, or if it just takes the color of the bottom pixel. Well, on this one, it is changing colors. I'm guessing this is just the color of the bottom one. Yeah, this is probably taking the color that goes into the Kyber crystal on this one, which is just whatever the color of the bottom is. Alright. The RGB addressing appears to be right. I'll still want to run a firmware update and get a proper SD card in here so it doesn't just freak out and die on me. Well, Joe, I know the feeling. But you know what? Star Trek doesn't have lightsabers, so don't know what to do there. I mean, admittedly, this is as far as my Star Wars stuffs go, and frankly, I've tried to actually get into tinkering with more advanced Star Trek props, but you think the price of a lightsaber could be ridiculous. I mean, there's the dark saber is like what, $300 or $400, like, but then you look at the replicas of like tricorders and stuff, and you realize, yeah, like this is a glorified flashlight. A tricorder's every Star Trek prop, when you try to make it into something real, is a computer and everything that comes with a computer. These are much more attainable in terms of like an at-home tinkerer's ideas and abilities. So yeah, I gotta figure these out. This seems like this is functioning a-okay. So I picked this up because it was on sale for like $60 with shipping, which frankly I think is a bit of a steal for it. Even the super basic lightsabers that most of them sell, those are only $60 normally. So I'm happy this turned out. All right. Oh, I having a drink. Yeah, it's true. Making a pad from Star Trek basically just means you got to put a case around a tablet. That's pretty simple. Yeah, now I need to. Well, part of me wants to like take everything apart and figure out how to rewire things on this saber to be able to have the button like that, but I'm not sure how or if that's safe. I have to figure out a lot in order to make that all work. Because all I swapped out was the couple wires for the special pogo emitter that attaches to this. Actually, I just realized I can now I've converted this to a pixel blade. All I gotta do is pop that out, pop in my little adapter, stick that down in there, and we're back to a single color blade. Which frankly, 12 is pretty good. Ooh. Look at that rolling shutter. Yeah, I can guarantee someone was doing some kind of firmware update. Alright, is there anything I need to figure out? No, I'm pretty happy with the core upgrade. Now I got 2 pixel sabers, where once I had 1. The only thing to figure out is the wiring. Of course, the wiring is more complicated because I not only got to figure out like this switch and how this differs from a normal switch. Like, what makes this a pixel switch? Does it have RGB in it? Possibly it does. Possibly all of these have RGBs. Once I take this apart, well, I know this one has RGB because I saw it change color. But did this have RGB? I'm not sure. I'm going to have to take some more stuff apart and find out. Which, I guess, now is as good a time as any. Let's put that up there. I guess I don't like taking this one apart too often because it's got an extra wire in here, and it's got to twist around in order for anything to work. Well, for the things to go in, because the wire connects here to here. This. Oh, for anyone who doesn't know, it is a sweaty day in Wisconsin. Though I'm realizing maybe I don't need to twist that off. If I just undo this, ooh, it's getting warm down here. Okay, Google, what's the temperature in the library?
The library is off and it's currently 76 degrees.
Okay, Google, what's the temperature outside?
In Kenosha, it's currently 75 degrees.
I mean, it's colder in here than out there. Alright, trend. It's not pushing. Not letting me put the push the button in on here. So, I guess that means I am going to have to disassemble this. I've removed the screw. The thing is, I've torqued this so much to tighten it because it likes to come loose. I'm sure now it comes out. I still want to break these wires in here. Alright, she's detached. She's disconnected. Alright. let's have a look at this. What's the big deal with the switch, and how is it different? This one's got some small wires. Oh, cross tip. Oh, too small, I think. Cross tip screws are the devil, but they're better than flat tips. Keep these separate. All right, so just to demonstrate with this, you can see the large speaker, this large black thing. The speaker in the 3 cores is just a little piece of metal speaker about half the size. And I am confident that this extra chamber size, you can see this one, gives it a little more resonance. It gives it a little more low end sound. All right, so all right, you can see on this, you can see the holes here from the connection of the connector here that goes up here. This one, this says U3, and this one says U2. So the core from my black saber says U3, and the replacement chip says U3 on it. What that means, I don't know. Now, looks like this attaches by a clip. Let me bring it closer here. Alright, you can see the U2 there. You can see the U3 on this one. Focus on it. Good enough. U3 right there. So it looks like the chip's held in by a clip here on the side. Yep, came right off. Just keep that well organized. Now on the bottom here, we got some more writing. This is kind of nice. This is like this. That would make soldering a lot easier. You can just unplug it, work on the soldering. So let's have a look at what's going on with this one. So as I was saying with this one, the wiring for the kyber crystal light and for the saber bypasses the switch entirely. You can see here the switch is only hooked up by these 4 wires. This one has 8. So I wonder, well, now I got to compare it with this one. So this has 8 coming in and 4 coming out the top. So let's pop its bottom off. Put that inside the case so I don't lose it. Same kind of connector. Interesting. I don't know if these are actually a thicker gauge wire, but they certainly have more insulation on them. I'm not sure what it is. So we got the thing on here. It says 2025-11 DS S1V 1.0. And there's some RGB labels on these up here. This one has a chip, where the RGB one does not. I don't think I see it on the other side. Suppose it could be hidden underneath something, but I don't see it anywhere. So this does seem to be more advanced, but the question is how. So this switch, this core, was originally for an RGB saber. Like I said, I disconnected the RGB emitter and attached the wiring for a pixel blade. I did not change these. I changed a thing that had like, I think 5 wires down here. I had to check through the video, and then changed it to just 3. Because originally it was basically voltage, and then, well, it's voltage for each of the RGB channels, and then a common neutral for the power to return to. Whereas, because it's a pixel saber, it's actually doing some kind of digital communication with the saber. So it's just neutral, data, and voltage. Voltage powering all of the lights. So this makes me think that, yeah, So this is being hooked up here. So I'm betting, I'll bet you anything, like these 4 wires here. One of them supplies voltage for the light, and then the other ones, by whatever method they bring in power from the USB, so that all the charging can happen, and then wiring for responding to the power button being tapped, held, whatever it is. So all that happens with just these 4 wires. This is 8 wires here, and I noticed that right over here you can see the other 4 wires are all wired the same way the original RGB blade was, the wires that went up to just the RGB emitter. So this is what's allowing the button to change colors, being hooked up to these. So in theory, if I swap these out, I can solder these 3 in. Well, I can solder in the wires to these RGB headers, but I imagine I'd have to figure out what the configuration is. Like, what is if I'm having a Pixel blade and an RGB button? How does the software on here expect those to be wired up? So I can't just go ahead and start resoldering this. I'm gonna have to do a little research. But maybe I don't want to do any research. Maybe I want to instead learn the proper way to program and wire up a Profi board, which is these are xeno boards. So it's a xeno pixel and the xeno RGB, they call them, for the 2 things. And in reality, they're the same chip, and you just have different soldered them on in different ways, and you reprogram them via the SD cards. The Profi is an open source version of this. This is community developed. The schematics for the chip are public out there, and you can just buy pre-made ones, but you can just make one yourself, and then you just load open source software on it, and you just use the Arduino programming environment, the Arduino SDK, that's what it's called, to program this. And so you can preload it with the custom software that is provided as part of the open source project. But obviously you could just take the source code and you could reprogram to do whatever nonsense RGB light show you want. But I need to learn about this before I can just solder it up. And so before that happens, I am going to get this in good focus and make sure that I clearly show, for my own future reference, where everything is wired up. All right, so see, we got red, white, and black going here. The words were always too small for me to read. That was part of the other thing. All right, and then the red, green, blue, white. So we got red, green, blue, white here as the short ones, and then they got a black, white, red, longer one. So, I mean, this all makes too much sense to me. All right, let's get some views. Oh, this is the Pixel Saber, though. I'm not gonna. Oh, this is the RGB core, not the Pixel Saber. White, blue, green, red. The wiring coloring appears consistent for the Xeno boards. All right. So yeah, that's how this wired up. I should be able to discern what's going on here. Let's get a nice clear shot there. I want to say this print's too small for these old eyes. Oh, good eye. Ho ho ho! That's the ticket. Old man eyes, just zoom in. I can clearly read that whole board. That's fantastic. All right, so that's like that. This is the RGB saber. Just lift these up so you can read some messaging down there. It's largely the same. So I just got to figure out what the equivalencies are between the Profi board and these boards. All right, well, I should get my black saber back up and running, eh? What's that all about? Am I right? All right, that's that one's. Actually, let's look at these backings. I would think that there doesn't need to be significant revisions on these, but you know, sometimes sizings change. Yeah, these largely appear identical. Zoom. This is working great. I am really happy. All right. So how did you go on here? Oh, this one's different. Look at that. What about that? Alright, well, all the better to keep that one over there. Looks like this one's slipping the cables around the side. This one's going through the center. Snap it in. There we go. That's not even the one that I actually needed to put together. Whatever. Alright, so you can see there, this says version 4.5 on there. Right there. I mean, who knows when I'm, well, as I say, when I'm all done with all this, maybe I'll transfer this as the 4.5 core in, but I don't know that there's a necessity. I don't know that there's any need to do that. And especially it's more complicated because of all this. Though on this one you can see it'd be pretty easy to just pop this out and bam, just wire in all the extenders I'd need for a custom lightsaber. Who knows? I've got 2 more from Damien sabers on AliExpress on the way, and maybe I will want to customize those up in some manner. They're just RGB ones. I'm basically getting them so that my nieces can have something they can play with. My nieces have taken to the lightsabers pretty intensely, which I think is great. So, get this in here. So everyone wants to see, right? My close-ups of my fingernails. There we go. There we go. Back together. Together again. Together again. Is this the right one? Sure is. A lot of wires in here. I gotta make sure I don't crush-nate anything. I'm feeling some resistance here. Oh, it's just the angle on that. There we go. There we go. There's a little snappy doodle. All right. Where's the other screw? There it is. Boop. Let's zoom it back out. Close-up's nice, but I need you to keep it in frame, and the frame's twice the size. Be nice to replace these with some hex screws. Why all this other stuff is all hex, all torque screws, and then this one screw. These 2 bottom screws just happen to be cross tip. I'm cautious to say Phillips because I found out Phillips is actually like a really specific cross tip, and I don't know for sure. Without double checking. Doesn't matter. I like torque screws so much better. So hard to strip. So hard to ruin. Alright. Now, let's see if we can come up with a way to put this together that doesn't necessitate tons and tons of twisting of these wires right here. So what I'm going to do instead is I'm going to slip this sucker on enough, and then attach this connector. There we go. Goes in there. And now I'll bring this off enough to realize I put it on upside down. Yoink. Figures, am I right? Alright, we'll get this in there, and now pull that off enough that there's no friction, and then just twist that on. Good. And then probably got wires bunching up here to be expected. There. Just let those squish on in there. Haha, I'm so good. Twisting them around. It works, but I'd rather not do it. There's only so many times wires can twist and untwist. And granted, now I feel pretty confident that I could rewire this sucker and take care of it, but there we go. Got a little tension. Yeah, good pressure for the button. All right. This saber has stolen my battery, and I don't want to put this low battery in here, so I'm going to go grab a different 18650 once I remember where I put it. Fortunately, I had a battery on the charger, so another one of these blue crystal ones, which are nice to have. 10 amp, that's what I'm going to suck, or not suck, yeah, it's what I'm going to put in here. It's what's in the other one. I tend to like taking my batteries out and charging them on my 18650 charger rather than charging them in the blades. In the blades is perfectly safe, but it'll charge faster, and my charger also has some battery maintenance functions that can help things out. Now, this is the other battery that I like to use. This is a 15 amp battery, so this technically has a little less capacity than these by the numbers. I haven't done a drain test on these two, and I really should do a drain test on these two. But it can handle a higher amperage, which means that this will overheat less and just generally handle higher current draw than this one will, and definitely more than the 5 or 3 amp or whatever the red crystal one was. Alright, let's put this sucker back together. Make sure she's working. Switch back to the wide. Alright, I have a second pixel blade here. We'll pop that sucker in. Alright.
Power on.
Ah, good speaker. So you tell the pixel blade's working, right? Because you can see it animated up rather than just all coming out at the same time. Also, nice even color all the way across the blade, which I love. It's one of the biggest reasons I switched over to the Pixel Sabers. Yeah. This still has the adapter in it, doesn't it? Yeah, it's still got whatever. I didn't bring the other Pixel Blade down. But we know this works with the Pixel Blade, so this sucker's been upgraded. We know what was in her. Have an extra RGB core now, which Amelia, you just saw it's not super hard to swap these out. So I could swap this back to RGB in fairly short order if I really wanted to. But for now, I'm going to keep it here in my big box of lightsaber electronics nonsense. Set that back together. All right, let's put the protective cover on this one. All right. Yeah, so I got a black one and a silver one now. Oh my! I'm gonna cut through the table with that, right? All right. Well, that's about all I'm gonna really get out of these today, I think. Switch over and just a little close-up shot there. Maybe use that for thumbnail of the video afterwards. So many screws to clean. Look at all these tools in the shot. All right, this was the split cover for that. Where's the protective cover for this thing? That needs it a lot more. This one. Here we go. Cleaned up. Cleaned up. And now it's stuck. Window. Okay. One last challenge. How do I get this out? That appears to be working. Or is it? I'm up too far. Get a flat tip in there. There we go. Well, so this hard one is definitely the one that was supposed to be on this. That cap. This soft rubber one was the one that should have been. Well, it's supposed to be on a pixel blade anyway, so it shouldn't be on this anyway. Got to figure out how I want to store this safely. That looks like the new. So this adapter, it's supposed to go inside there. The walls of these blades were too thick, so I actually used a Dremel to widen the gap. This one, no bueno. That's fine. Let's use this for a regular one. I have 5 blades now. How did this happen with 2 sabers? I mean, when I have 4, I'm gonna have 7 blades. This gets out of hand fast. Blame Ron. This is all Ron Fontaine's fault. Calling him out right now. Looks nice though. I gotta say, it's lighter. It's lighter than the black one. It's less intrusive in the hand. There isn't like a crystal that I'm scared to put my hand over. But still, the buttons are always somewhere that it's not quite convenient. I will say on this one, the button sticks out just a little bit. This one's receded a bit, so that's going to be nice to not accidentally push. All right, that's that. Thanks for watching, everybody.